Alright, so hey guys, how y'all doing? How's your day going? And if just starting, how's your night? Hope you had or are having an amazing and a beautiful day. So this is our day one of 100 days of Python, and I'm not going to be showing you how to set up Python in your system because I've done it 1,000 times. So if I'll just link cards up here that would show you how to set up Python on your phone, on your laptop. But if you, yeah, let's just jump in, shall we? So today we're going to be covering all the basic aspects of Python. These are the first things you usually learn in any new programming language you're trying to kick off in. We'll cover how to print in Python, how to work with strings, receiving inputs from users, and working with variables. So let's start with the first thing, how to print Python. So if you don't want to start working with a Python file, you may decide that you want to run your program in the Python console. So let me just drag this up so we can see it better. Okay, Visual Studio doesn't do it, or is it you type it properly? Okay. So um the first thing we're going to do is open up the Python console. So there are some, I don't know if this new version of Python does, but if you search, you can easily find like the main Python console. Like you see it here. So if you want to just write Python scripts directly, you can open it up once you have installed Python. I'm using Visual Studio Code because for some reason I'm obsessed. So if you want to print in Python, there's this function called print, and it does as the name describe. It prints out values that have been um, passed into it. We can pass in variables, but we're not going to be doing that now because we have not started working with variables. So we're just going to print out a string. If you are working with string, you must make sure that the strings are enclosed in this inverted comma, whether it's a double or a single one. Because if it's not enclosed in an inverted comma, then it's going to be treated as a variable. And if it's treated as a variable, and trying to call a variable that doesn't exist, let's do that. It's going to raise an error. So let's print pop, but we're not going to include inside inverted comma. You can see he has given us a name error. We're going to visit this name error shortly. Today, we'll do it today. So but for now, let's try it again, but let's do it correctly. You can use your single inverted comma, but if you're using a single inverted comma, you cannot end it with a double inverted comma because it's going to raise a syntax error. We're going to touch this error shortly, but let's correct this quickly and let's print our very first program. Let's change it to hello world because that is the ideal thing to print. Hello world. What did I just do? And you run it, and congratulations, you have written your very first Python program. All right, so let's move forward. Oh gosh, I'm getting frustrated. Okay, so now what if you want to work with a file and you don't want to run from your command prompt or your terminal? Well, you create a Python file. Now when you're creating a Python file, if you're anytime you want to exit your terminal, is Control Z. So when you're working with Python files, your file is going to be saved with the extension. So we can just say I've already had this file, but it's just going to be test.py. You must end with that .py for it to be identified as a Python file. So let's write the exact program we just wrote now. So we're going to have print, we're going to have our inverted commas, and we're going to print hello world. Now, throughout the rest of this series, until when we start working, I'm working with frameworks. I'm going to be running it by using this run function. But if you want to run it manually, if you are using Visual Studio Code, your terminal will open in your current directory. But if you want to run from a command prompt, you must change your directory to the directory of where the file is saved. So if you don't know how to change directory, whether you are using Linux, you are using Mac OS, you are using Windows, changing directory is the CD command. So that is CD change directory. But I'm currently in the exact directory my file is saved. So to run that, I'm going to just type Python and the name of the file test, not forgetting the extension .py. And there we have it. Hello world. Okay. Let's see. Next thing, variables. So variables are containers that hold data. So down the line, we're going to work with more data structures holding a collection of data. But for now, variables hold data. So it can hold any single type of data. It can hold a string. It can hold an so this hello world is a string. It can hold an integer. Let's print an integer. So integers are just whole numbers. So you can hold an integer. Let's say we want to print 5. So we run it and we can see we have 5. It can hold boolean, that's when you have true or false. So there are a whole lot of data types. We're going to get into that shortly. But yeah, so variable is so let's create a new variable. So let's go up. So remember that first program we did when tried printing pop without saving it. So let's run it. It gave us a name error. Now, what is this name error? A name error usually occurs when you're trying to access something that doesn't exist. You're trying to access a variable that hasn't been defined yet. So how do we handle this error? You either define the variable or you get rid of, you don't call it, because come on. So let's create a variable called pop. So creating a variable, you call the variable name. Now there are certain rules you must follow when you're naming a variable. You cannot start with a number. It's case sensitive. You can go and read it because I don't follow and just go and read further on it. But you cannot start with a number. It's case sensitive. Can you use underscore? I cannot remember. I've never had a need to do so. But I don't think you can use like all these question marks or stuff. Just go and read on that. Basically, me when I'm naming my variables, I just use names and numbers after the names depending. But it's mostly just names I use to name my variable. I'm saying names, alphabet. So pop is going to be equal to, sorry, let's assign the hello world. So since it's a string I want to define, it must be inside the inverted comma. So I'm just going to say hello world and I can save it. So if I were to run it now that pop has been declared, the name error should have been gotten rid of, and you can see there we have it. Hello world. Now when program is very static because it's not receiving any input from the user. But what if I wanted to receive an input from my user? I can now do this. So there's a function. The same way we have this print function, there's another function called input. Now this input function takes you can call it like this, but it takes should why did I forget what you call it? Ugh. It takes an argument which is called prompt. So this prompt is always a string. It's kind of like telling them, okay, what do you want us to use to guide the user or whatever. So we can say enter here just so the user would know that we need an input from them. Because if I just run a program and I'm not seeing any prompt, I may think the program is just stuck or something. So if I run it now, it's going to ask the user to enter an input. And since the idea of this function is to just print out the user's input, so it's just going to print out whatever it is that I passed in. Now, what if we wanted to carry out a mathematical function with it? Let's say we wanted to add 5, right? So how we do it now, we're going to get an error right now, so just give me a minute. Just give me a minute. Okay, is 5 the right thing? Okay, let's try it. I'll have used the more mathematical function, sure. So let's just enter praise because we have concatenation. Okay, so there we have type error. Now, what is this type error? Type error is an error that occurs when you're trying to you know work with how would I say it, you get a type error when you're trying to carry out a certain action that cannot be carried out on the specific data type you're working on. For example, you cannot m- multiply or add with a string, unless when you're doing concatenation. We're going to jump into that shortly. But what do we need? We need to ensure that the user is giving us an integer. So there are multiple ways to go about this, but since we are getting an input from the user, I want to handle any error it's going to raise. Because if I were to say, okay, run it, and since I've not started doing exception handling, it's just going to be a whole another thing. So you just call this int. So what there's a name for what they call it. This stuff, what do they call it? I think it's casting. Yes, casting. So casting is when you specify a specific data type. So we're saying that make sure these are inputs. So now, like I mentioned earlier, I've now entered exception handling. So if I were to pass string, my program is going to crash and I'm going to get an error. So let's pass in a string here. See the exact same string we've been inputting before. We have gotten a value error. Now, what is this value error? As you can see, invalid literal for base 10. So a value error is when the value you're trying to pass into, um, you can go and read further on all these errors. I'm not really explaining. I'm just explaining to understanding. So you usually get a value error when you're trying to, like what we did here, passing an invalid value into a specific data type. We are asking for an integer, you're giving me something that's not an integer. So obviously I'm going to get an error. But if let's run the program now and finally get a successful program now, if I run 5, I have successfully gotten 10. Now, let me just give you a quick pop quiz here. If I had, let's I want to print this out. So if I had a string here, 5, because this is a string, and I were to add it to another string, 6, what do you think the output of this code is going to be? Leave it in the comments, and I'm going to announce the answer shortly. So just leave it in the comments first. Don't cheat. Okay. So if I were to get 5 and 6 and I were to run it, the output I'll get is 56, not 11. Why is that? So now that's when you now come in contact with this stuff called concatenation. I feel I'm not pronouncing it well, but this is the act of conjoining. Remember conjunction? So it's the joining of two different strings together. You merge it at once. Now let's look at it in a more representable form with text. Let's say we have, let's use my full name, Praise. And for those of you who don't know, my son is Obasi. I mean, that one is my description. So if I run it now, run without debugging, it's going to look very ugly. Praise Obasi, I run it as one word. Now, how can we handle this? There are multiple ways to go about this. So the first thing I could do is be lazy and either put a space before the Obasi or put a space after the praise. If I save this, this is going to fix the error, right? It did. Or another thing I can do with it is now add in another this thing here and just have a space, and I can save it and run it. It fixed the error also. But instead of doing this, there is another more Pythonic way of going about this. And we're going to make, so when we are printing right now, I've only been passing one argument into our print for which is the argument we want to print, even though like it's multiple arguments we're passing, but please. There's another this stuff that Python print function takes. It's called sep. That is the separate function. So you're just going to pass now command here, comma here, and we're going to say sep is equals to. So now what this sep does is we're saying for every single string we're having here, what do we want to use and separate it? So we want to just separate it with a space. And if I'm trying it, I've cleared out this other space. We're running without debugging. What happened? What is happening? Okay, I don't understand why it's not working. Why is it not working? Just give me a minute quickly. But it's because I'm adding it and not using commas. Alright, that was the error. I guess you cannot add it. Although I mean it does make sense because if you're adding it, you're not making it one word and you cannot separate one word. So um a bit trace back, sorry. So what you do basically is that instead of you replace your addition with comma, so you're saying that we're calling multiple strings, and as we're calling these multiple strings, we want to divide each and every one of them by the space. And using this method, we'll be able to add even more strings into it without having don't get a comma here, without having to like add a space before it. So it's going to separate every single thing. So I don't know about I forgot that. But yeah, that's basically it. Now I've been calling strings. So let's work a little bit more. Oh no, sorry, shit, I didn't touch this one. I didn't touch this. I didn't touch this end function. I just called it and I didn't do nothing with it. So this end function, basically what you're saying is that once you reach the ending of your project of your string, if you're looking at this is where our string ends, but what should we do after that? So we can end our string with anything. I can say that I want to end it with a full suffix. Maybe it was sentences I was taking a leisure on it. So at the ending of the string is going to have a full stop. I can say I want to end it with a new line. So we will not really see it now because there's just one thing we're running. But that's basically what the end function does. Although I think by default it does end at a new line, but if I was maybe printing from a list, we're not just printing it now, so let me leave it at that. So let's work a little bit more with strings. I'm just going to define two strings. I'm not going to take integers, we'll just be fast. Let's say A is going to be equals to praise and B is going to be equal to opacity. So let's work a little bit with our strings now. So some of the things we can do with a string, let's print. So we'll just be seeing everything. The first thing, so there are these things that string does. There are plenty. I'm just going to touch the ones you would come across a lot. And maybe as this course goes on, if there's any new one I would like to introduce you to, I'd let you know. First note is lower. Okay, see this first one. Okay, I think I would just be full it as it's showing it us here. So this first one is capitalized. What this one does is just change the very oh my god, changes the very first what do you call it? Very first letter of your string to capital letter. Okay, we're printing out the function. Sorry, I didn't. If you, I'm printing out the function because I didn't enclose it with my bracket. So we need to close out this bracket so it's going to run and give us the output. I know Python is crazy. You remove this bracket from a function and it's going to print out like the whole function built-in whatever stuff this is, and you add in your parentheses and it's going to print out the action. So you can see it has printed us out praise with a capital letter. Same way we have another one called lower. This one turns it into lowercase. So I think we'll not let me change this. Let me change this one to all caps now. Let's change capital letters so we can see it. So it's going to turn it into lowercase. Okay. So now let's work with B and change it into all uppercase. So the function for that is called upper. Upper. Okay, what else do we have? We have title. So this title is, let's say if we had multiple words here, let's add another one of as praise. And I'm obsessed myself. So let's call this title. It's going to turn the first letter of every single word, every single individual word to capital letter. You can see Obasi and praise and now in capital letter. Okay, let me follow them and see what other ones they'll call. So I'll just be explaining it. I've done title, I've done upper, I've done lower, I've done capitalize. Ends with this one is when you're now working with like checking for conditional. Does it end with this? So we're not going to do that. All this one, this is alum, is digit is when I wanted to check. So I think that is all. Okay. So another one we want to do is split. Okay, I clicked on strip. So what this strip does is it removes white spaces. So what are white spaces? All this white space that comes before or after your word. So you know sometimes when people are typing, they'll not be pressing space like a mad person. So this handles that. It will remove every white space that comes before and after. So you may not see what it did right now, but let's clear this strip so you can see it. How would our function have looked if we ran it without the strip? You can see. So we have this tab in front and there's spaces at the back here, but we just can't see it. Okay. Another one is split. So what this split does, it takes so you like say, okay, that look at this function, and maybe if we had like even we can split at white spaces. So I'm just going to say that where do you want to split at from? If I was using regular expression, this is very special function that you can use to split, or we can just use a space. So we want to split at that space, and it's going to create a list. And same as we have join when you want to join a list to a string. So you can see he has created us two lists with Obasi. If I want to split at something specific, let's say I want to split at the letter A. So if I run it, I'm going to have more things in the list now because there are plenty points where we have A. So we have OB, is A, SIPR. It looks ugly, sha, but I hope you're getting the gist of it. Okay. Now, can we work with some of these mathematical functions in our strings? I've already shown you how to work with um plus for concatenating the string. But likewise, we can do this when we're working with multiply. So this multiply, what this one just does basically is just prints out the this thing multiple times. So we did four, so it's going to print it out four times. So yeah, it- I think that's basically it. Yeah. Now, what if we want to check for what type of data is currently being held in a function in a variable? That is very simple. You just have this type. So I think this JavaScript and some other ones is type of they call it. It's just the exact same thing type. You're just going to print out the exact data type that is being held inside a variable. You can see is a string that we have there. It was an int or short, it was a float or short. All right. Now let's create a simple project. So at the end of every single lecture we do, we're going to work on a project. So let's just work on a project that is going to implement all these things we've done. We're going to work on a band generator. So let's just create a new file code band. I just use band.py. This code I'm using is used to create a new file. So I'm going to generate this code name. You can make your own project more easier, more presentable. But what I'm going to just do is I'm going to take certain input from the user. So the first input I'm going to take is going to be your first name. So it'll just be your first name. I really don't know how to go about why am I putting space? See that and that thing. You cannot use spaces in variable naming. So your first name is going to be equals to it's going to be an input. It's a string input you want. So we're just going to say input. We'll just give them a prompt. Enter first name here. And that thing we want is maybe an adjective. So just call it adjective. Spell it right here. Still going to be the same thing. So let's just copy it. Okay, there's another thing I didn't introduce you to, so let's just do that now. Let me just introduce you to it here. So in when you're working with string, there's this stuff called len. It allows you to know how long your word. But if I'm going to implement it, I'm going to have to start introducing. Okay, no, I don't. I want to just work with every single thing of len today. Okay, let's say I think this but let's just use this two honestly. I don't know how to generate findings. I'm not a creative person. I'm terrible at naming, even in my variables, I'm very terrible at naming. So you can go a step further and just do it and I'll create a place. There'll be a link below where you can submit your own source code project. Yeah. So first name, adjective, what else? Alright, that should be us. Let's print. Okay, yes, and that's Nigerian introduce you. So there's this way, this is the way I write all my strings. I don't use like all this add and everything because to me it doesn't make sense. I mean it makes sense, but it's just unnecessary stress. So there's this called formatted string. So usually before when you want to work formatted strings, you just write your string, have empty curly braces, and at the end you now do dot format and you now start assigning variables into those curly braces. I on the other hand I use this newer one which just passing an F in front of the string and now start typing, then be calling the curly braces as you type. So we're going to say the band name is. So I don't think call curly braces so we can access variables, because if we're to just call variables within the string, it's going to print it as the name of the variable and not what is inside the variable. So we can just print let's do this so we'll not make our print line bulky. Let's just say C, like I said, I don't know how to name things. C is going to be equals to first plus want to add empty space plus adjective, because why not? If you have a more creative way of naming a band, then you can do that. So the what did I do here? What is wrong with me? What is wrong with me, honestly? The band name is, so I'm just going to call C, and if we save it and we run it, so it's going to enter first name here. Okay, we don't want it just be, so it's going to be, let's add it will be let's just add the, just add the, just so it will look a bit more creative, right? Let me end this program. This EOS error, we're going to get into that shortly. That EOS error is one of the most useful errors you can ever come across in Python, and you will see why once we start working with loops. So enter first name here, praise. Okay, let's do another thing. I'm sorry. Let's do another thing. Let's do another thing here. Let's say we want to let's just come and say C is going to be equals to C dot title, so that all the first letters in it is just going to get capitalized so it can look more beautiful. Right, let's run it now. Hopefully there's not that thing that comes to my mind. So we have praise and great. The band name is Praise the Great. Okay, interesting. Alright, now what if I wanted this praise the great to be enclosed in inverted comma? So one way to go about it, so you can see here I'm using the double inverted comma. So if I want to be able to access under inverted comma, I can either use this, just calling the single one, that is the one opposite to it. Or remember the way I printed that my new when I did backslash n to print a new line. So instead of n now I cannot have this inverted comma here, and I'll just do the same thing for the back here. And I can save it and let's run it. First name is going to be Praise. Last name is going to be Great. The band name is Praise the Great. So yeah, I hope this video helped you. If you have any questions, feel free to link it in the description below. If you want to submit your own, which is obviously going to be much more better code on or take on these, the link is in the description below. And yeah, the source code will all be on my GitHub. I'll have a link tree below so you can follow me on any social media that is more pleasant to you, and I hope to see you guys here next time. Have a great rest of the day. Bye guys.